Well, take a look at that sharp, in focus, in frame address label. You can see that really clearly, can't you? That is pretty cool. That is why I, Malcolm Tent, look at that, it just came back into focus, just like that, man. This new camera I got is going to usher in an entire new era of Tent Talks Tunes. Yes, look at that. In focus, way back, and up close. This is pretty good, man. This is what a $70 video camera will do. We've seen what the $20 camera has done. We've already experienced that for the past 9 months, but now we got a $70 camera. So Tent Talks Tunes is going to be ultra slick. I'm coming at you in stereo with autofocus and apparently some nice warm colors that we never had before. And yeah, I look pretty clear. You can see the actual coloration under my eyes. You can probably see the thinning hairline. Yeah, look at that. It's all there, man. This is good. I like it. Excuse me while I cough. Clear my throat. Give everybody a chance to tune in. Make themselves known. Make themselves heard. Let us know that you all are here. That address label on this delightful golden envelope came from my former employee, Lauren, a.k.a. Professor Turek, and her delightful hubby, Jeff, in Texas. They sent me a nice New Year's card. Hello, Robopuff Law. Good to have you on board. It's been a very good mail week this week, and it gives me a great opportunity to flash the address again, because the autofocus feature on this camera lets me do it. It might take a second to kick in, but boy, when it does, I'll tell you, after 9 months of looking at out-of-focus addresses, come on, camera, don't let me down. I'll just narrate it while the camera gets into focus. Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut. And, yeah, alright, so it's not focusing. Maybe I haven't learned all the ins and outs of this thing yet. Give it time, I will. Give the camera time, it will. How does this work? Isn't this great that I'm on live and you guys get to watch me futz around like this, trying to make the camera work? Well, whatever. There it is. As long as I look good here. Yeah, and I do. Oh, look at that. The light adjusts, too. This is awesome. Yeah, definitely a very good mail week. Look at this. A Sun Ra DVD from my main dog, Chris. Way up in the frozen north. This harkens back to the good old days of tape trading and then disc trading, when if you had some rare recordings by your favorite artists, you'd make either a box of CDs or a little box of cassettes or a stack of CDs and send them to somebody of a like mind with a like collection, and then they would mail back a bunch of tapes or CDs, and that's how you would get all these really cool live shows and whatnot. It's not done very much these days, what with dime a dozen and streaming and YouTube and all that, but there are some of us out there who still trade physical copies of awesome live shows. So Sun Ra Live in Oakland DVD, I'll be reciprocating to Chris very soon with that. Love my Sun Ra. Speaking of doing things old-fashioned in the mail and cassettes and stuff, I haven't totally gone public with this yet. I have not gone public with this yet, but this is kind of a teaser for a really big project I'm working on right now. I'm amazed that a project this large has been able to stay under wraps this long, but what good is a project if you keep it a secret? I've been working on this project in which I've been reaching out to every alum from G.G. Allen's career that I can still get a hold of. Anybody who actually played music with him or worked with him or legitimately knew the guy, I'm reaching out to, because I'm working on this big old project involving them making music and making sounds and a bunch of unrecorded G.G. lyrics and poems and stuff. And so far, I've gotten some great contributions from the GG alum, and in the mail today, in the very mail today, I got this big fat envelope from Infection Distro, and look at this. That is actually a custom printed envelope. That makes me want to start custom printing my own envelopes for my mail order company, TPOS. How's that for a subtle plug? Got this big old envelope from Charlie Infection at Infection Distro, which not only had, look at that, a cassette, an honest-to-God cassette, containing his contributions to this GG project, along with Johnny X, his cohort in the band Bulge, and Psycho. Those two guys recorded some cool, I'm assuming, noise and music for the project and sent it to me on a cassette. I love that. Files are cool, downloads are great. There's just something about an actual physical cassette containing the music that I am going to manipulate for this project. Not only that, man, he stuffed this envelope full of just things. You know, we got all kinds of posters, flyers, postcards, stickers, an issue of Pork magazine, just all this stuff. And it really harkens back to the days that I love and that I cut my teeth on, and which do still exist to a certain extent, where you would mail order something from somebody, a record or a tape or a CD, and you'd get the envelope and it would just have all this great peripheral fun paper to look through. And you could learn about new bands that way, and learn about record labels that way, and add flyers to your flyer collection. Really, really cool. So thanks to Charlie for that. I'll be sending Charlie and Johnny X a copy of the finished product when it's ready. Don't know exactly when it's going to be, but working is proceeding full steam ahead on this thing, and I think it's going to be pretty good when it's done. My mentor, Leslie Wimmer, who knows me very well, she's seen a few episodes of Tent Talks Tunes, and anybody who's watched it knows of my proclivity for numismatics, aka coin collecting. Leslie went to the local library where she lives in Florida, and right there on the free table where they were giving away books, she found this incredible auction catalog for a Heritage Gallery auction that they had earlier this year. And this is just like the most ridiculous, out of control wish book ever. There's not one single coin in this book that I will ever be able to afford in this lifetime or any other lifetime. But man, it's fun to look at this. So I've been dissecting all the various gallery entries, I should say auction entries, page by page, beautiful full color plates of incredibly rare US coins. I'm geeking out. The fanboy in me is just geeking out. So thank you, Leslie, for that. And thank you also for this incredible original, and here we're going to put the autofocus to the test again, let alone my own poor eyesight, this astounding original song and dance button from Open Books and Records. Come on, camera, I just spent a lot of time singing your praises. All you got to do is focus. Song and dance pin from the original, or one of the original Open Books and Records locations, when they had this phone line that you would call and get current concert information. That was the only way to get, or at least the best and most up-to-date way of getting concert information in the pre-internet age, was to call that number, which you can't see. I was just so excited about this camera and how well it works. I want people to see this pin. Come on now. Shit. Well, so I got a little bit of egg on my face. Maybe I'll have to return this camera, or maybe I'll just take this button and put it right in the face of the camera, hoping it'll focus. I want people to see the cool artwork by Walter Jahalski. All right, I might have to return this camera. You know, I was so happy about it a minute ago. Now I'm pissed off. Anyway, thanks, Leslie, for that pin. I will never part with it. Ever. Okay, enough bourgeois, man. I've just spent 9 minutes talking about the great mail I've got. Let's get into the subject at hand, which is records that I remember from an extremely early age. And it's really amazing how memory works, and the things that you retain, and the things that you can remember and do remember, and the things that you can't remember, or just can't remember, you know? I mean, how many times have I been at a record show, for example, and run into somebody on the floor and said, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing?" And then 10 minutes later they come up to the table and I don't recognize them. How many times has that happened? It's downright embarrassing. Although I'm told pretty much everybody does it, I'm still embarrassed by it because I make my living by being a people person. And when I can't remember somebody's face from one minute to the next, It is mortifying. But the fact that I can remember clearly standing in my parents' living room at the age of 3 with my hands on the edge of the big console AM/FM stereo record player that we had in the living room. I can remember clear as it's happening right now, having my hands on the edge of this big wooden contraption and peering over the edge of it. It was like I was just tall enough to hoist myself up and peer over the edge of it and see the record on the turntable spinning around. And the one I remember so clearly spinning around was either side 2 or side 4 of the White Album by the Beatles. I remember that apple from the Apple Records label, the cut in half apple, absolutely clear as day, spinning around while the Beatles' White Album played. I don't remember hearing the music, but I remember seeing that label spin around. Indelibly ingrained on my memory. And apologies to anybody who I met 10 minutes ago and I can't remember your name or your face now. That's the human brain for you. What are you going to do when you're stuck on this evolutionary level right here? Firmly human. Therein lies the rub. So anyway, I remember that, and I also remember that my father, for some reason I remember the record rack being, like if the console record player was here in the living room, I remember the record rack being over to the left and a little bit further away. But he had all these records in the record rack, and I would look at them and I'd stare at the covers, because, you know, to me the covers were these huge giant things, you know, and a lot of them had these huge giant faces on them. Like he had Al Hurt with the hit single Java on it. I think the name was Candy Lips or something like that. If the Internet Research Team wants to look that up, the Al Hurt record with Java. But this giant picture, this huge picture, this giant face of Al Hurt with a horn. It was like this monster. So it was like a billboard, you know, because I was like 3 years old at the time, and I remember that. I remember he had an Andy Williams album called Call Me Irresponsible. And, like, I guess I must have known how to read a little bit, even at that early age, because I remember the titles and I remember the text on the covers, but I remember I didn't understand or comprehend the word irresponsible. Like I knew call, I knew me, but it was kind of like this big blank spot where the word irresponsible was. But I remember it. I remember this picture of Andy Williams kind of looking over his shoulder a little bit with a big gleaming smile on his face. I thought he looked like the guy on the Vitalis hairdressing bottle, which is what I thought I was going to look like when I got to be an adult. I really thought that when I reached the year 2000 and I was going to be 35 years old, like my mom explained to me was going to happen, I thought I was going to look like the guy on the Vitalis bottle. I really did. Strange how things turn out, isn't it? I look much better now, actually, really. And I've got better taste. Definitely got better taste than that guy on the Vitalis bottle who looked just like Andy Williams. But I remember these things. I remember there's a comedy album called You Don't Have to Be Jewish that he had. And it was on the Cap Records label. And it had a red label. And at the same time, we had what I think was a Sonny and Cher record that was also on the Cap Records label. But the label on that record was black. And even at that early age, I remember that it was the same design, it had the same logo and the same layout, but one was red and one was black. So right from the get-go, I was already zeroing in on these collector geek things. It's amazing how hardwired one's brain is to stuff like this. At the age of 3 years old, I was already spotting label variants and label differences and things like that. Pretty funny. Now, I think it's interesting when you also think about how one's brain is hardwired from an early age that I don't remember one note of music from any of those albums. I remember my father also had The In Crowd by the Ramsey Lewis Trio I remember the cover with the picture of the street scene and the cars on the rainy road and sort of out of focus people in the distance on the sidewalk. I remember the cover, and I remember trying to decipher the term the in crowd. I thought they must have meant in the crowd. I had no idea what an in crowd was or what the in crowd was. I could only sort of think of the sentence as being in the crowd by the Ramsey Lewis Trio. So I remember that cover, and I remember being really confused by the title, but I don't remember one note of music on that record, or anything on the You Don't Have to Be Jewish comedy record, or on the Andy Williams record, or the Al Hirt record. This music, right from the get-go, did not register with me at all. And to this day, I couldn't tell you what any of those records sound like, and I really wouldn't want to, because I really don't care about Andy Williams, I don't care about Al Hirt, and I don't care about Ramsey Lewis either. And I'm sure that whatever comedy was on that You Don't Have to Be Jewish album is so dated that it would be not only unfunny, but irrelevant. So whatever. I don't care about those records. What I do care about are the records who I not only remember the covers, but remember the music. Because the music was good. The music, even at that tender young age, really registered with me and blew me away. And I've got a few of them right here, and we're going to talk about them. But first I'm going to scroll down just a wee little tiny bit and make sure everybody's still tuned in and talking and hanging out. Ah, there we go. Yes. Java and Sugar Lips. That's the Al Hirt record, all right. Yep, Robopuff Law. Yep, that's the one, all right. And Larry Mann's talking about the smell of the console. It's true, man. Once that console, that wood had a certain kind of varnish on it, and the tubes, the electronic tubes there for the AM/FM stereo would get warm, and they had this really weird, musty, dusty aroma to them. It was wonderful. If you could make incense with that smell, I'd burn it every day. Solid State has never smelled that good. True fact. Anyway, there were quite a few records that my father had that I remember from that tender young early age and a little bit onward. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about why I remember them. First one off the bat, and this is by no means strictly chronological, I remember looking at the album cover. This album cover, for, I don't know, so many hours, so many days when I was a little kid. This album cover had so much information in it that I did not understand, but I knew I wanted to. I knew I wanted to understand. I wanted to get what was happening with this album and this guy on the cover. Man, it still blows me away. The exciting Wilson Pickett. How is this framed in my camera? Oh, look at that. You can see it perfectly. There he is, the exciting Wilson Pickett. My father had good taste in music. The exciting Wilson Pickett was an album that was in his collection. And as a 3-year-old, looking at this guy, never mind a 3-year-old, but a 3-year-old who lived in an all-white suburb in unincorporated Northwest Dade County, Florida. Needless to say, I'd never seen a person who looked like this, let alone a person who just kind of flew through the air like that with such, look at that. He's flying through the air. He's got this huge smile on his face. That dude, that is a strong, confident, absolutely exciting, happy guy. And I didn't understand any of those concepts, but I got it. Like it seeped into me one way or another just looking at this picture of Wilson Pickett with the suit and the shoes and the tie and the pink background. Everything about this album, everything about this cover was just perfect and mysterious and exotic. And I knew that I wanted a piece of that action. Even though I didn't comprehend any of it, I knew I wanted it. And just looking at the song titles, Land of a Thousand Dances, 6, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, Mercy, Mercy, Danger Zone. The one that really blew my mind when I was a kid. 99 and a half. And then in parentheses, won't do. 99 and a half won't do. What does that even mean? God damn, I wanted to know. And lots of liner notes on the back, none of which I'm sure I couldn't read them. I don't remember any of the liner notes. I just remember looking at the song titles over and over again, trying to figure them out in the midnight hour. What does this mean? I was fascinated by this stuff. And luckily for me, dear old dad would play this record quite a bit, and this record kicks ass. I don't specifically remember watching the label spin around on that console record player of ours. Come on, man. I want this thing to be in focus. I want people to see this. The record. Yeah, there it goes. It's focusing now, kind of. The exciting Wilson Pickett. Mine's a promo copy. My father had a first pressing with the green, blue, and white Atlantic label. I wish I had one of those, but this white label promo will suffice. But yeah, man, the Atlantic logo, the whirlpool, it looked like a spinning whirlpool on the record player. I mean, God, it looked good. It sounded good. Wilson Pickett was badass. And just my luck that at the tender age of 3, this was one of the records that was on the family record player. So I had not only killer music, but lots of mysterious and cryptic information to decode from the album cover, with the picture of the man himself, the title of the album, the titles of the songs, and the sound of the music. It just shot right into my brain, and I knew it was exactly what I needed. The exciting Wilson Pickett. Very happy to have this in my collection. It's never going away. It's not for sale. It's mine, baby. Luckily, it's easy enough to find. This album gets my recommendation. Another one that, just like the Wilson Pickett album, had information that I just did not understand in the slightest bit, but really wanted to, was this one right here, which I'll tell you about in a second after I hydrate. This is my sippy cup that I got at a venue called the Green Jersey. The only time I ever played a bicycle shop was in Clitheroe, England, about 2 years ago with my main dog, Tim Holhouse. Tim has dragged me around the UK twice and Northern Europe once, playing my brand of solo acoustic punk rock. And we played a show at a bicycle shop in Clitheroe, which sadly is not there anymore, or at least doesn't book shows anymore. And not only did they give me a tremendous vegan meal, they gave me a sippy cup, as seen on Tent Talks Tunes. There's a story behind everything, kids. Everything's got a story. And I think it's all interesting. So here we go, another album that I just was utterly befuddled by, but wanted to know more about. I look at this now and I still get chills mildly. Yes, I'm talking about the absolutely immortal album, King and Queen, by Otis Redding and Carla Thomas. Another deal where I just did not know at the age of 3, having an extremely limited worldview and an extremely limited, life experience, I didn't know what was up with these people. They just looked so weird. I mean, look at those drawings, even now. Those are some pretty weird-looking people. And I remember there were playing cards around the house, so for some reason they kind of looked like playing cards. And King and Queen and Otis. I just love the word Otis. Otis just sounded so good. Otis. That's just like a good, strong, powerful name. You say it, Otis, and it feels like you're ready to do some business with somebody. Otis Redding and Carla Thomas. King and Queen. That is strength. Man. And same deal, the back cover, I don't remember anything about the liner notes. I'm pretty sure that I was not able to read them well enough to understand them or even try to read them. I remember the picture of Howard Baker on the back. I did not know why that guy was on the album cover. I had no idea what he was doing there. Ah, there's the focus. I didn't know what a United States Senator was, and the word Tennessee definitely did not register in my lexicon. But, once again, the song titles. The song titles were just so mysterious and evocative. Knock on Wood, Tramp, Lovey-Dovey. My mom explained to me that the title on the side 2 track was New Year's Resolution. The word was called resolution. I did not know what a New Year's resolution was, but now I knew the word resolution. Ooh, Carla. Ooh, Otis. Man, kind of the same deal. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was good. And I saw that guy's signature, too, the Howard Baker signature. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the hell it was. I did not understand it. But I wanted to know, in no small part, because the music, once again, the music was so great. This album I was playing last night, it's got that distinctive Stax Volt engineering and that incomparable Stax Volt house band and that unique snare sound. I remember even back then listening to this album and thinking just how it didn't sound like any other music that I knew. It didn't sound like the songs they were playing on WQAM on the radio. It didn't sound like the Wilson Pickett record. It didn't sound like the Beatles record. This record on Stax, the classic Stax label, absolutely sounded like nothing I had ever heard in my life. And I keep waiting for that autofocus to work. I paid $70 for this camera. Come on, camera, strut your stuff. Maybe I just have to find the sweet spot. Where's the sweet spot? Yeah, it's still better than the old camera, I'll say that much. Anyway, that Stax logo. A big stack of records. It looked like they were all broken and there's records flying all over the place. I liked that. That really appealed to my nascent, there it is, my nascent sense of humor. Or is that nascent? You tell me. The sense of humor that even then was slowly developing in my 3-year-old mind. I really loved the absurdity of a great big stack of records with all these records flying out of it. I remember vividly thinking they were all broken records, and I thought that was so funny. I thought that was hilarious. The copy that my father had was the yellow Stax label. Mine is blue. It's close enough for soul music, kids. Close enough for jazz, and close enough for me. Woo-wee! Yeah, Larry Mann said it right. Tramp! That was the song that probably more than any other stuck out in my mind was Tramp. I didn't know what a tramp was. I didn't even know what these people were saying, but I knew it was hilarious. Carla Thomas saying, Otis, you wear overalls. You country. You don't got no bankroll. I mean, didn't understand a word of it. But I just knew it was funny. I knew I needed it, and I knew I wanted it. Oh, my God. Douglas Herring says WQAM. Have not heard of that station forever. Douglas Herring, are you a Miami guy? Did you listen to WQAM 560, I think it was, on the AM dial? WQAM was a great station. Classic American Top 40, late 60s. They played just about everything. WQAM is where I first heard They're Coming to Take Me Away. Haha. A brain melter. Oh, my God. Hello, Sean Fairweather down in the D.C. area. How you doing, Sean? A trashy from days gone by. Good to see you there. And Nick, hello Nick from Danbury, White Thrash in the house. Hell yeah. Another record that, once again, this sort of continues a thread. This was the young, lily white suburbanite trying to make sense of people who were not like him, but he just knew, even at the age of 3, that they had something going on, and it was worth investigating. Another album that I just loved. And I only picked this album up recently. Within like the last year or two, I found a copy of this record in the dollar bin somewhere at a record show. And I was a little bit leery. I was like, oh God, I haven't heard this record since I was a kid. I don't know if it's any good, but for $1, I'll take the chance. I'll bring it home and give it a listen. What have I got to lose for $1? If I don't like it, whatever. I can donate it. So I paid the $1 and brought the record home. Drop the needle in the groove, and boom. I was taken right back to when I was 3 or maybe 4 years old at the old house in unincorporated Northwest Dade, trying to wrap my head around the information contained in this album. The best of Lou Rawls. Look at that dude, man. Look at him. Look at this picture especially. That is a guy who looks like he knows what he's doing. That is a dude who means business. Look at that suit. Look at that tie. Look at the absolute confidence. Same thing with this photo right here. He's more casual, but you know, that's a serious dude. And he's got something to say. I knew that. I knew that, even at the tender young age that I was. And it was kind of the same deal as with the exciting Wilson Pickett. I'd never seen black people before. You know, everybody in my neighborhood is white. So this guy literally did not look like anybody I'd ever seen in person, ever. And it was really exciting. You know, it was sort of like a look into a different world. Like there are other types of people out there. I don't get it. I'm not sure I understand it, but this guy's different. And when my father plays the record and I hear his voice, it's a beautiful voice. It's a strong, powerful voice, and he can sing, man. This guy can really sing. I didn't know what was up with him, but I knew I loved his singing, and I loved his music, and I loved the way he looked. And I still do. It's a masterful package. Those photos and the way this thing is put together, this should be in a museum somewhere on display. Fantastic. The songs, Love is a Hurtin' Thing, Tobacco Road, Dead End Street, World of Trouble, My Ancestors. And it was kind of the same deal. I didn't know what an ancestor was. Like, I was able to make out the word, and I heard him sing it, obviously, but I didn't know what he meant by singing My Ancestors. It said right here, Southside Blues, monologue. I didn't know what a monologue was, but I knew that on that song he talked. It's kind of the same deal as with a lot of the stuff on the Wilson Pickett record and the Otis Redding Carla Thomas record. I did not understand a word he was saying when he talked about a guy who had a conked out hairdo and, you know, like real honest to God street slang. Did not comprehend one syllable of it. But I just loved his voice so much. And it was a live recording, so people laughed, so I knew it was funny, and I could tell it was funny anyway just by the way he said everything. Man, oh man, I wanted to be Lou Rawls. It was just so cool. And yes, the album stands up to this day. This is a great album. He kind of does, like for example, he does 3 o'clock in the morning, which was, and actually it was a very good year. That's the main Sinatra song. I've often wondered what Sinatra thought of Lou Rawls' reading of It Was a Very Good Year. Because Lou Rawls, what I've come to appreciate now as an adult with a critical ear, is that he's singing, you know, songs like 3 o'clock in the morning, It Was a Very Good Year, which I would normally dismiss as being corny and white, but he's singing them totally street level and black. He never lost his inflection. He never lost the street slang that he spoke. He never lost his accent. Lou Rawls never soothed out the rough edges just for commercial white success. He sang the songs exactly the way he wanted to, the way they came to him naturally, the way that they meant something to him, and they translate beautifully. It's like the perfect fusion of earthy and slick. All of the arrangements are tasty. It's a great album. It really is. I think Lou Rawls is one of those guys who probably never got the credit he deserves for being an absolute artist. An artist and a technician with his songs. And this album's a great entree. Blew my mind when I was a little kid. Blows my mind now. Man, oh man, oh man. And I play these monologues now and they're hilarious. Now that I actually understand what he's saying. Some funny stuff. Lou Rawls could have been a comedian if he wanted to be. Damn! Damn! Let's drink to Lou Rawls. I remember when Lou Rawls died a few years ago, in his obituary it said that he had been a lifelong supporter of the United Negro College Fund. And I remember actually shortly after he died, all of a sudden there were all these billboards all over the place promoting the United Negro College Fund. So I guess he bequeathed them some money and they put it to use. So more good stuff. More thumbs up for Lou Rawls. I'll go in a couple of years later into my development. This is probably when I was getting to be like 5, 6, 7 years old. We're getting definitely into the late 60s, early 70s. We had moved to a new house. It had a bigger living room, and the old console stereo had gone the way of the dodo, and my father had a component stereo system with a separate AM/FM receiver and a separate turntable. And what I remember being huge speakers that were really loud and sounded really good, more so than the old console system back at the old house did. And by this time, I on my own had discovered Grand Funk. And I already did at least one part of an episode of Tent Talks Tunes on the absolute magnificence and unimpeachable, untouchable godhood of Grand Funk Railroad. And if you want to hear me waxing rhapsodic and getting slightly wet behind the ears at the thought of Grand Funk Railroad, you can go to my YouTube channel on, oddly enough, YouTube. Look up me, Malcolm Tent, on YouTube, and all of my, or at least most of my episodes, my past episodes of Tent Talks Tunes, are archived on my YouTube channel. So you can go look it up. You can also scroll back on my Facebook page, and you'll eventually find that episode with Grand Funk. So rock and roll was foremost in my mind. You know, I was really, really keyed up and ready for rock and roll. And my father's tastes had kept up with the times. By the early 70s, he was buying records by, you know, contemporary rock bands, some of whom I liked, others of whom I didn't. I remember he had a Janis Joplin record, and I didn't like it. And, hey, heretical statement, I'll say it. I don't like Janis Joplin. I don't care for her. I'd never liked the sound of her voice. I still don't like the sound of her voice. It grates on me. So he had a Janis Joplin record, but that didn't really mean anything to me. He had an Eric Clapton record in the house. I hate Eric Clapton. Despise Eric Clapton. There, did that soak in enough? I fucking hate Eric Clapton. So his copy of whatever stupid Eric Clapton record that was did not sink into my young brain. No, wasn't going to happen. But there were a couple of albums that definitely did sink into my mind. And one of them was, I thought, one of the most exciting records I'd ever heard in my life. This album was pure excitement on so many levels. Starting, first of all, because it was a live album. And my entree into the world of Grand Funk was, of course, Grand Funk Live album. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart. I've always had a soft spot in my head. I've always had a tough spot in my eardrum for the live album. Because if you can't kick it live, then you're not much of a band. And if your live album doesn't document you kicking ass, I'm not interested. And that has been consistent throughout my entire life. If your live document doesn't blister, I don't want to know. Fortunately for me, this particular live album does blister. It does do the job. And it still stands the test of time to this day. I can still put this album on right now and listen to it and say, this is good. This rocks. It did when I was a tot. It does now that I'm an old codger. What album am I talking about? What album am I talking about? I'm talking about this one right here. Three Dog Night. Captured live at the Forum. Yep. I don't know by what decision-making process this record ended up in my father's record collection. But he bought it and brought it home and played it a lot on that extremely loud stereo of his. And I loved it. And it was just a continuation of what I've talked about so much earlier with the Lou Rawls and the Otis Redding and the Wilson Pickett. I had the record, and I had basic skills of comprehension, but there was so much about it I didn't understand. I didn't understand why it was Three Dog Night captured live at the Forum. I just didn't get the concept of captured live. And man, what an awesome bit of marketing. Look at that. It doesn't say contains the hits. It doesn't say featuring. It says getting into. Three Dog Night, baby. Getting into. Easy to be hard. Eli's coming. One. Chest fever. Heaven is in your mind. Getting into? What does that mean? I would look at this cover and look at those words for hours and hours just thinking getting into, easy to be hard. Getting into chest fever. Chest fever? Doesn't sound like much fun, but the song's great. And the picture. I thought that's what the Forum looked like. I thought that she went into this great big circular kind of ball and sort of sat there on this floor while the band played. I really thought it looked like that. And I also thought that because it was shaped like that, that it must be especially loud, which meant to me that it was especially exciting. Three Dog Night captured live at the Forum. Look at that back cover. I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was trying to be Jesus. Maybe he was. With the wreath around his head and the bare back and him reaching out to these screaming, frantic people with weird expressions on their faces and the weird light. And, I mean, look at some of these people, man. Look at those expressions. I didn't know what the F was going on. This one woman right here, I mean, look at that. Look at that look on her face. It's like she wants something so desperately, but she looks so, at the same time, like sad and pained, all at the same time, all because of what this guy was doing in front of them on the stage. That was probably my first real conception of the power of the stage and the power of live music. I saw that, and I didn't get it. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it. Yep. You know, in the gatefold sleeve with all the information, and there's a picture of the Forum on the inside, and, you know, sure enough, there's the Forum, and it's round. Where did it go? It's round. It must look like that on the inside. It must be like a great big old super, you know, great big dome or whatever. And it had all the information, Concert Associates, I didn't know what that meant. A Filmways company, I didn't know what that meant. You know, more pictures of the band playing live. This was damned exciting. Look, there's another picture of the big round room. I was convinced. And of course, the album itself lives up to the cover. It rocks. Chest Fever rocks. It's better than the original by the band. I hate the band. Hate the band. I don't like any of that Garth Hudson, Rick Danko, Robbie Robertson, corny old white guys singing around, moaning around a mandolin. It's not my thing. If it's your thing, more power to you. Do it. Love it. Embrace it. It's not my thing. The Bob Dylan basement tapes? Boring. I've tried. God knows I've tried to listen to it. And I can appreciate them academically for what they are. But you'll never, ever catch me listening to them. I appreciate the mythology and the allure and the, you know, all of the stories that go around it. I've always been more interested in Bob Dylan scholastically than musically. He's got some good stuff, but I definitely appreciate the whole mythos around him more than the music itself. But I digress. Three Dog Night's version of Chest Fever blows away the band's version of Chest Fever. Heaven is in Your Mind. It's better than Traffic's version. Harry Nilsson's version is at least as good, but Three Dog Night's version kicks butt. This album, excitement incarnate. Now and forever. Yes, Three Dog Night. Did not understand half of what was going on, but I've grown into it. I've grown into it. Yeah, Loomis, wouldn't it be cool to see a live show inside of a bulb? I think we have the technology to do that now. There's got to be some conceptual artist out there somewhere who could actually pull it off. I'd buy a ticket for that. All right, kids, another album. Another album that completely fried my brain when I was young, in many parts because I just didn't understand the cover. The music would play on the big old stereo and it sounded great. It satisfied so many itches. I remember hearing the weird distorted guitars and the bizarre psychedelic. It wasn't even really feedback so much. It was like this weird knocking sound and the overdriven organ and the gravel voice singing of this guy. It just, everything about it sounded badass. And I didn't even know what badass was. It was being presented to me. I just didn't know how to comprehend it at the moment. But besides grand funk, the definition of badassery for me was supplied by another album that somehow found its way into my father's collection to be studied and deciphered endlessly by yours truly at a ripe young age. I should say unripe young age. Steppenwolf Gold, their greatest hits. So much about this album that I did not understand. I did not understand the term Steppenwolf Gold. I just didn't get it. I knew the band was called Steppenwolf, and even the phrasing, their great hits. Like I'd seen albums that said greatest hits, but just the way it was phrased, it was different. It was their great hits. I guess it meant the same thing, but did it? Their great hits. I would try to figure this stuff out. Steppenwolf Gold. And who is she? Who is this bizarre looking woman? Why did she look like that? Like, really? Nobody in my neighborhood looked like that. Nobody at the Great Value grocery store looked like that. Nobody at the drugstore looked like that. Nobody at the hardware store looked like that. None of my next door neighbors looked like that. None of my school teachers look like that. What is this? Why does she look that way? And then what's this? Is that her too? Is that her? Like there's this big disconnect between the picture of her face on the cover and her torso on the other side of the cover. It was just like I just literally couldn't put two and two together. It just didn't make any sense. But it was a lot of fun to try to decipher. It was kind of the same deal. The song titles just reeled me in. Sookie Sookie, The Pusher, Screaming Nighthog. Man, that was bewildering. Jupiter's Child. Hey, Lawdy Mama. What's a Lawdy Mama? Is that a Lawdy Mama? Are they talking about her? Is that a Lawdy Mama? Born to be Wild, obviously, Magic Carpet Ride. The sounds on this album, The Pusher. First time I ever heard the word goddamn, I ever heard a curse word, a cuss word on a record, was Steppenwolf doing The Pusher, written by Hoyt Axton, and John Kay, the lead singer, sings, "God damn, the Pusher Man." I knew that I would get into big trouble if I used language like that. But here it is on a record. That's more puzzling evidence for this young 6-ish-year-old to try to figure out and make sense of. A lot of that stuff on there. Magic Carpet Ride with that incredible outer space psychedelic break in the middle. I was hearing sounds. It was kind of like this lady on the cover. The lady on the front cover was like no other human being I'd ever seen. The sounds in the middle of Magic Carpet Ride were like no other sounds I'd ever heard. And I liked them. They were weird. They were legitimately bizarre and they were weird, and they still are. That fuzz guitar intro to Magic Carpet Ride, that's a masterpiece of sludge and distortion. Still sounds good to this day. And that's the kind of stuff I keyed right into. Like, even at that early age, talk about that early, young, hard wiring, boom! I knew I wanted to hear more stuff like that, more of that really weird, unworldly, unearthly, unnatural, abnormal sound. I really liked that. So in a lot of ways, Steppenwolf, with that one song, was kind of like my entree into the avant-garde and the experimental. Another one, which was, and I don't have the album here, which people might not believe. You know what? I got to show this to you because this is such a great, yes, Greg Crawford, theater of the mind. I was introduced to the theater of the mind at a very early age by Steppenwolf. I'm going to grab this record right now and show it to you because a lot of people wouldn't believe it to be true. Okay, and I wasn't going to talk about this one, but I got time to squeeze in this one last album. When you talk about theater of the mind, this one blew me away when I was a young tot and it first came out. So take a look at my backdrop for a second, just a second. The album in question is in the next room. I'm going to go grab it. Look at my groovy backdrop. Check out the warm colors and the autofocus of my new camera. Maybe Harry the Cat will make an appearance. Hold on one second. Guess what? Turns out I don't have the album anymore. I sold it. I don't know why I did that. I shouldn't have done it, but I sold my only copy of the first ever album by Chicago Transit Authority. You'd never know it, but the first one album by Chicago kicks butt. It's good, it's funky, it's loud, it's tough, and it's amazing how quickly they went right down the toilet very soon afterward. Like, their second album's got some good stuff on it. The third album's got a couple of good things on it. But man, they turned to shite real fast. But that first Chicago record is really good, and I can still play it to this day. There's a song on that one called Free Form Guitar. And it's another concept I didn't get. I would look at the title, Free Form Guitar, and the only way I could comprehend it was free from guitar? Free from guitar. Free from guitar. I just didn't know what the hell that meant. And I'm sure it's on YouTube or somewhere, but look up Free Form Guitar by Chicago from the first album, Chicago Transit Authority. I'm not even going to try to describe it. You just got to listen to it. Listen to that track, Free Form Guitar. And once again, put yourself in the position of being a very young, eager disciple of rock and roll and hearing something like that for the first time on your father's extremely loud stereo system. And my father hated that song. He hated it. He would always skip it when he played that record on the home stereo, but I always wanted to hear it. So whenever he wasn't home, when he was away at work, and I was home from school, there was a couple of hours when, I had free access to the stereo and I wasn't allowed to touch it. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near the stereo. But come on, I knew how to treat a stereo. I knew how to work a record player. I wasn't going to break anything, and I never did. So I'd put on that Chicago album, side 3, track 1, Free Form Guitar, and turn it up as loud as I thought I could get away with, and engage in the theater of the mind that this guitar piece conjured up. It was wild, it was otherworldly, it was bizarre, and it was meant for me, baby. Another one of those entry points into a musical world that I still inhabit to this day. So there you go. And Bronson, you're right, their cover of I'm a Man, kick butt. Really kicks butt. My favorite. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So Chicago weren't always a worthless, steaming garbage pile. They did actually have some really good music, about 51 years ago. Just saying. Just saying. 51 years of trite mediocrity. I mean, some people can make a living off of it. I'm glad I can't. I'm very glad I can't. And that's not being pithy or sarcastic. That is gratitude for my current lifestyle. So anyway, that wraps up my musical, sociological, anthropological self-spelunking through the past of when I was just a wee lad, having my brain twisted into pretzel shape by these very important, formative records for me. Maybe you'll like them, maybe you won't, maybe you'll listen to them, maybe you don't, but they mean an awful lot to yours truly. And if you disagree with any of the strong opinions I've expressed on this episode of Tent Talks Tunes, I think what you should do is just do what I did. Get yourself a cheap-ass streaming camera, hook it up to your computer, and tell people about it. Share your opinion. Share your wealth. Cast your bread upon the waters. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to come out here and pontificate and see who agrees and who doesn't agree. That's what it's all about. The exchange of ideas, the cross-pollination of information, and having a good old disagreement every now and again. So thanks everybody for tuning in every week to Tent Talks Tunes. Really, really happy to have you guys here on board. As always, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel. Stay tuned to my Facebook page for late-breaking developments. Always, always, always feel free and feel happy to send me something in the mail. Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. I'm always happy to send stuff in return. I love trading. I love getting and I love receiving. And that's it. I expect to be back in about 167 hours. So until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.